So I call it knowing and telling leadership. The idea is the leader knows all the answers and gives all the orders. This is the model. This is where we all start. Oh, where does it come from? It comes from places like this, right? Now your workplace might not look like this. We're going to come back to these people. The Navy said, oh, great news. We're announcing the submarine captains for the next year. It's a 3-year job. They announce it 1 year in advance. You're going to be the captain of the USS Olympia. Woohoo! But you got to go 1 year of school first. So for 12 months, all I did was study every single detail of that ship. I could draw the piping system, ventilation systems, wiring diagrams, breaker boxes, everything. Why? Because in a knowing, telling world, based on that definition, I needed to know all the answers because I was going to give all the orders. So anyway, so I'm at the Olympia. While I was there for 12 months going to school, learning everything about the ship, there was a drama playing out in the Navy, and the drama had to do with this submarine, the USS Santa Fe. Because the Santa Fe was the worst performing ship in the fleet. And of the 135 sailors, 1/4 of which leave the ship every year, and we say to them, hey, how was your Navy experience? Would you like to stay? That was 33 sailors. 3 of them said yes. The other 30, no mas. It was the worst retention in the fleet, so it was the worst performing, worst morale submarine in the fleet. And the captain was going to be there. He was at 2 years. So everyone's like, oh, we're a year. Everyone was anticipating. Who's the poor SOB is going to go be the captain of the Santa Fe? Because it's a year out, and the Navy's about to announce a person. But the captain quit unexpectedly. He just quit. He didn't get fired. He just quit. He quit before he could get fired. And the Navy said, Marquet, Santa Fe. Now I was the poor SOB who was going to Santa Fe. And I have to tell you, for me, it was incredibly scary. Bad morale, bad performance, not a problem. I could smart my way out of that. The problem was the Santa Fe is a different kind of submarine. And if you look real close, you can see the Santa Fe has a very smooth, we call this the sail. There's no fins. Olympia, well, not the factory workers. Olympia, fins on the sail. That's your first hint. The Santa Fe was one of the newest ships in the fleet. Different reactor, missile tubes, the way she drove through the ocean, everything was different. I had 2 weeks over Christmas break. Have a nice break. When you come back, you'll be in charge of the worst performing nuclear submarine in the fleet, by the way, that you haven't been trained for, and you have 5 months to get ready to take them on a 6-month deployment. But you can relax. Again, here's the crew. As I said, you don't get to choose, right? You don't get to choose. The Navy actually deliberately evens the talent on the ships. So here's a question for you. Google did a study, and they said, hey, we're really interested in team performance. So we're going to look at the team performance, and we're going to look at these 4 variables. Which of these do you think Google decided was the most important variable for team performance? All right, let's see what you guys said. Yes, you guys are correct. It's how the team interact. Who is on the team and what positions they're in. These things all matter, but they don't matter as much as how they interact. Even having a diversity of personalities, because it doesn't matter if we have diverse personalities if we don't listen to each other, which we put in the category of how we interact. Now, the cool thing for me was, since I couldn't affect any of these things other than how we interacted, just by luck, that was where I spent all my energy. The other thing is, everybody on the team has the ability to affect that. The newest person on the team, when we hire the next newest person, they can welcome them, or they can say, oh, well, you're the newest person to the group, and by traditional mammal social hierarchies, that means you're at the bottom of the heap. So we're going to pick on you until you prove yourself. That's not leadership. That's crappy. So everyone can do it. Everyone can help. All right, good job. So anyway, so here I was, inside, petrified, but making a good show of it. And I call this now my not knowing, but my telling phase, which lasted about 2 weeks. Lasted about 2 weeks. So here I go down the submarine now, like this room. As I said, no windows. We have no windows on the submarine. Everything we know about the outside world comes primarily from listening to sound. And we analyze it. We have computers, and we process it. And we're pretty good. You'd be proud. We're pretty good. So we say, oh, it sounds like a surfer ship, which our code for surfer ship is target, because there's either targets or submarines when you're on the ocean, by the way. Sounds like a surfer ship. It's a cruise ship. It's a Carnival cruise ship. It's the Carnival Destiny. Nailed it. You guys, like I said, you paid for this. You should be proud. And sometimes it's a whale or a school of shrimp or another submarine or oil, whatever it is. So you got to sort out what it is. And now you see over here, these are all the buttons. That's how we interact with the equipment. Now on the Olympia, I could have walked to any piece of gear and I could have said, yeah, push that button. That's a drop down. I would have known it all. But on the Santa Fe, it looked like Alice in Wonderland. And I'm walking to sonar, and I had this habit of asking my guys questions. Like, hey, tell me about your equipment. To be honest, in retrospect, it was not really a question, it was a test, because I would always know the answer. And one of my secret powers was I could scan the buttons, and I could see the cleanest button, the least worn button. What did that mean? Least pushed, the one they probably forgot what it was. And I would go, boing, hey, how about, we'll use this hand grenade. How about that button? And as soon as I asked the question, the poor sailor's face would go, I got him. And he, I forgot. And then they all looked at me, and I was like, crap, I shouldn't have asked that question. Because I didn't know the answer. I'd never seen a submarine captain who didn't know an answer. And I was like, and I had this moment where I wanted to say, well, you find out and you come tell me. Young man. I don't know why, something was messing with my head that day, and I just said, yeah, I don't know either. They're like, what? You're the captain. I was like, yeah, go figure, huh? And I have to tell you, the prospect of going into combat, for me, it was never scary. My heart rate never went up, and my palms never got sweaty. But for this, oh my gosh. Going in front of your team when you're expected to know the answer and saying, I don't know. But I don't know opens the door for all learning. If you can't say, I don't know, they can't say, I don't know. And if they can't say, I don't know, you won't have a learning organization. So don't give your people a lecture about having a learning organization. Just practice saying, I don't know. Actually, no. So then here's what happened. I was like, hey, I got an idea. Let's press it and see what happens. No, don't tweet that. Okay. Didn't do that. It was scary, very scary. The very first day we went to sea. Now I had 2 weeks over Christmas break, as I told you. We go to sea. We finished putting the ship back together, and we submerged the submarine. I've been the captain for 2 weeks. We've been at sea for about 6 hours. We've been underwater for about an hour. And we're going to run our very first exercise because, after all, this is the worst performing ship in the fleet. So my idea is, hey, we're going to train hard. And eventually we're going to improve performance, and then people will be happier. In the Navy, our thing is like, the beatings will stop when morale improves. That was my theory. And what we would like to do, because there's only one reactor, and it provides the source of propulsion and electrical power. We have a backup, which is we have a battery. So a submarine's like a Prius in a way. We have a regular motor and then an electric motor. But the electric motor is very small, we have a big battery, doesn't drive the ship very fast. So this is the knob we use to control the speed. If you see the movie Titanic, it's the same knob, okay? It had 1/3, 2/3 standard full flank. And then sends a bell, makes a bell sound, ching, 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 sends it back to the engine room. They match it, ching, 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 ching. It comes back to the control room, and then the sailor says, the engine room is going to answer the bell, the head flank or whatever it is. Now, when you shut down the reactor, you don't have all that. What you have is the electric motor, and so we have to shift to the electric motor. And there's only 2 speeds. On all my submarines, there are always 2 speeds. You can think of it like first gear, second gear for the electric motor. First gear, okay, 6,500 ton submarine, 350 horsepower motor. First gear drives you slowly through the ocean and drains the battery slowly. Second gear drains the battery quickly and drives you slowly through the ocean. So the officer of the deck, so the young man who's actually doing this, his name is Bill Green. He's the navigator. He's been on board, he's the officer with the longest tenure on submarine. Me, 2 weeks, him over 2 years. Now, Bill Green, by the way, ended up running the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard and is now an admiral in the Navy. So, Bill's doing a good job. And he says, and he's running along at a head 1/3 on the electric motor. Now, I think he's just conserving energy and giving the engineers the maximum amount of time to find the problem, because you got to find the problem and fix the reactor before the battery runs out, because there's no charging stations in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Now, I think, hey, Bill, because I'm thinking we got to make it harder. Let's speed up, shift to second gear, drains the battery faster, puts stress and tension on the crew. Hey, Bill, why don't we speed up on the electric motor? So go to second gear. He orders it. Boom, just like that. Add 2/3. Silence in the control room. 20 people looking around. The sailor sitting at this panel does nothing. I notice it astutely. No bing, no bell. I look at him, and I'm kind of hanging on the periscope. I kind of look off to the side, and I can see the back of his head. And he's just sitting there. Well, actually, it's kind of his shoulders are kind of gone up like this. And I said, hey, what's going on? How come no 2/3 on the electric motor? He says, Captain, on the Santa Fe, it's a 1-speed motor. It's only a head 1/3. I now recognize this because I've heard it several times. This is the, hey, boss, you're an idiot voice. I was like, whoa, oh my gosh, I screwed that. It was like the first order I gave as a captain. I rode all this like catastrophe movies were running through my head. And I looked over at Bill Green, and then I can blame him, right? So I said, hey, Bill, did you know about this 2/3 deal? He says, yes, sir, I did. So I asked him, I said, well, hey, Bill, if you knew that there was no second gear, why did you order it? Riddle me that. What did Bill Green say? Exactly. You told me to. Remember the definition. It's about doing what you're told. Yeah, sure, we sprinkle some fairy dust and we go, yeah, please think. But it's really do what you're told. My head went, and I'm like, hold on, stop the exercise, officers gather. And we all came down to the wardroom, and I was talking kind of excitedly, and I said, hey guys, we got a big problem. I was trained for a different ship. You guys are trained to do what you're told. I'm gonna give a bad order, you guys are gonna do it, we're all gonna die. They're just like sitting there looking at their shoes like, yeah, we figured that out a couple of weeks ago. I was talking for myself. And I was like, what are we gonna do? I said, I got it. Okay, look, you guys be proactive. You guys take initiative. You guys speak up. And if you think what I'm saying is wrong, you gotta tell me. Right? How many times have we heard that? There's a kid in the back. He's raising his hand. He's brand new. What does he know? I ignore him. He keeps raising his hand. Finally, I kind of run out of steam. And I'm like, all right, hey, what do you got? I say, hey, you, millennial, what do you got? And he says, Captain, I got a different idea. Really? And he says, why don't we skip that step? I'm like, what step are you talking about? He said, you know the step where you give the bad order and then we have to fix it? Why don't we just skip that? Why don't you just be quiet? And I was like, a lot of stuff was, anyway. I was like, I paused, and pause is a great play for leaders, injecting a pause. It's a very powerful play. And I paused, and I took a breath, and I said, you know, I think you're right. Because as long as I'm telling you guys what to do, it just makes it harder for you guys to tell me. So how about we make a deal? We're going to do a handshake. I'm going to never give another order. But you guys who are sitting around waiting to be told what to do and coming to me and maybe even saying, well, here's what I recommend, you can't even say that anymore. The words that got to come out of your mouth are, I intend to submerge the ship. I intend to start the reactor. I intend to load a torpedo. And you're going to make me say no. If I don't say no, if I say anything but no, it's yes. Whereas in the past, it was if I said anything but yes, it meant no. And everyone's looking around at each other and kind of, we don't know what that looks like. But we know it's better than dying. So let's try it. And we were off to the races. And now, of course, I did give orders. I didn't hold on my end of the bargain. When I was stressed, hungry, tired, hadn't slept well, I would fall back in the old ways. But in general, I tried to stop telling them what to do at every step. But it was always a two-part thing. It has to be a contract. It has to cascade down throughout the organization. This is why a lot of empowerment programs don't work. It's one of the reasons. So you say, I intend to. We never use the word empowerment. I never said, thou shalt be empowered. I just say these words. I call this now my not knowing and not telling phase. So I'm getting closer to where I want to be. All right, so now we get to the workshop part. Let's exit the submarine. We're going to watch a movie, and I'm going to talk about error propagation, and we're going to highlight this idea between doing what we're told and thinking about it and making decisions, because my guys were trapped in doing what they were told. They were trapped in the production work. Now, we're coming up on the Oscars again. Last year, you guys remember? They announced the wrong movie. Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway. So let me give you the backstory, because you're going to do a little activity at your table. 2 PwC accountants, 24 envelopes, double count all the votes, 6,700 votes in the academy, stack the envelopes, 2 sets. Why? Because if the presenters come from stage left, one person's there to hand them an envelope, stage right, there's another person to hand them an envelope. Second to last award, Best Actress, Leonardo DiCaprio, Titanic is a connection. Stage left. Gives him the envelope. He goes on stage, opens it up. Emma Stone, La La Land. That's what it says on the envelope. Reads it, she gets the award. Applause, great. She exits backstage right. The PwC account on stage right, where this is right about the time Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty are coming out, takes a picture and tweets it of Emma Stone. And he hands them the 23rd envelope. He's supposed to be handing them the last envelope. On the front of the red envelope, it says, actress in a leading role or best actress. But they never look at the front of the envelope. They walk on stage. The announcers announce the nominees for Best Picture, most prestigious award of the evening, last award of the evening. Moonlight, La La Land, and several of the movies. They play the trailers. Standing on stage for 5 minutes, Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway with the wrong envelope. Now, the problem is they don't like each other. And when they went to rehearsal, there was a squabble about who got to read it and who was going to open it. And so the agreement was Warren was going to open it and Faye was going to read it. And he stormed out of the rehearsal, and they put a clamp on all video. And apparently, I don't know what happened. Why are they there? Does anyone remember? Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde, exactly. 50 years ago, Bonnie and Clyde. Okay, so they trot them out 50 years later. I'm going to show you what happens when he opens the envelope. And your activity for your table, you have 3 things to do. Number 1, I want you to get inside their heads and write the job description from their perspective. Number 2, I want you to come up with a number, say, what's the probability you got the wrong card? And number 3, why doesn't he stop the Oscars? and check that he's got the right card. Those are the 3 questions. Let me play it for you.
And the Academy Award for Best Picture.
You're impossible. Come on. La La Land.
It wasn't. All right, let me play it for you again. This time, like, watch the other person. So if you're watching Warren, watch Faye. Like, watch the interaction. Remember the 3 questions. What's the job description? What's the likelihood the card is wrong? Why does he keep going?
And the Academy Award for Best Picture.
You're impossible. Come on. La La Land.
Okay, now the moment when I want you to, the moment when I want you to answer the question, in his mind, what is the probability he has the wrong card is this moment right here. So he's opened the card, the envelope, he's looked in it, but he hasn't launched into the script yet where he says, and the Academy Award, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is the thing. By the way, the card he's looking at looks like this, and he's confused because he doesn't understand why does the card for the Best Picture have the name of an actress on it, right? Okay, so these are the 3 questions. How will they describe their jobs? What's the chance the card is wrong? Why doesn't he stop? You have 3 minutes, and then we'll see which table comes up with the best answers. Go. All right, good job. Number 1. All right, so who wants to start us off? How do they think about their job? What's their perspective on their job if they were to write? Yes?
Read the card.
Read the card. Okay, good. Anyone want to amplify, alter, disagree? Yes?
Read the stupid card.
Read the stupid card. Okay, now. Say again?
Create suspense.
Okay, read the card, but create some suspense.
Be glamorous.
Be glamorous. Yes, ma'am.
His job was to look at the card and hand it. Her job was to read.
Okay, so we can break the task so that we can break the task down a little bit more. Warren, open the card, look at it, hand it to Faye. Faye, read the card. Okay? Good. Anything else?
The job was to communicate who won.
Aha, the job is to communicate who won. Sir, tell us, how is this, what you just said, different than kind of what this lady said over here, where we said, open the card, hand it to Faye, Faye, read the card.
That was the plan, that was the process.
That was the plan, that was the process, that was the objective, that was the task. That's thinking, that requires thinking.
That requires.
That doesn't. Okay, executing the task of opening the card better and reading the card better does not prevent the error from happening. The error only stops when we get out of the production work and we shift into what I call the thinking work. So we're going to use 2 code words. We're going to call production work red work. We're going to call the thinking work blue work. Now they're both obviously, you don't get paid necessarily for blue work, right? You get paid when you produce for the client and whatever it is you're getting out there. But you need both. Okay, so we say, this is what we say, you're trapped, this is a group that's trapped in red work. All right, very good. And their description, if they're thinking about their job is, oh, open the card, read the envelope, then we go to them and say, well, where's all your thinking and decision making, your critical thinking skills? It's like, well, it's not in the job description. So it all starts with how you write your job descriptions and what you're hiring to, number 1. Number 2, we're gonna do this with a poll. So I pause time, I walk on stage, hey Warren, I noticed that you did a double take on the envelope. What's the chance, like what do you think the probability you got the wrong card? What do you think you would answer right at that moment? All right, good. Aha. Aha. Now, I talked about the relationship with variability. For red work, for production work, variability is an enemy. However, for blue work and decision work, variability is an ally. So when you're in a meeting and things are going through your head like build consensus, you are reducing variability and you are pushing your team into red work and non-thinking work. So what you want to do is not to build consensus. You want to embrace the outliers. So in this case, so we ask the team a question. Now we could say, everyone raise your hand and make it binary. That's not a good way to ask a question. No more binary questions. Start all your questions with the word what or how. Then it's impossible to ask a binary question. How do you feel about this? How strongly do you support this? How likely is this assumption going to come true? Not, is it going to come true? So we look at this, and the group says, here's the results. So we have the majority of the groups up there saying, he's almost certainly sure it's wrong, and there's a small group that says, no, it's only 1% chance it's wrong, therefore he's thinking it must be the right card. You're the leader in this meeting, now what do you want to do? You embrace the outliers. Go to the people who think the furthest one way or the other, and always go to the smaller group first, because after the big group talks, it's harder for the smaller group to talk up. So, who wants to explain the 1% position? You don't need to vote that way, you just need to defend it. Yes, sir.
When has there ever been a wrong card handed to a presenter?
Yeah, it's never been wrong before.
He's an actor. He's always told what to do.
He's an actor, so he's also defaulting back to what he's been conditioned for. Read the script. So maybe he's not even thinking about whether it's the right card or not. Yes, sir.
It's Price Waterhouse. They don't make
PwC, they're like next to the U.S. government, there's PwC, right? They don't make mistakes.
He's old. He forgot what the category was.
He's old and he doesn't even remember what it is, yeah. That's ungracious, sir. Yes, ma'am? Right. Andy's thinking it's not my job. But so what you're saying is even if he thinks it's wrong, it's not his job. He's not going to say anything anyway. Okay. How about yeah. He thinks that she's playing a joke. Tell me more about that.
So if he looks stupid and he stutters around with it, and then maybe if he really does think that it's wrong, he'll go off stage and he'll look stupid in the process.
Oh.
It's really the right card anyway.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to get to that in a second. That's why doesn't he stop? That's kind of behind why doesn't he stop? Yeah.
They just had an argument. He wants to stick to it.
Okay, yeah, we're getting into the why doesn't he stop. So let's go ahead and do that, right? But just like 141 of you said he's pretty sure it's the wrong card, and you're looking at his body language, his double take, his facial expressions, all that, and you're saying that looks like the wrong card. All right, now let's go into, okay, so if he thinks, if there's he's got this 99% thing in his head that says, this is pretty surely the wrong card, why does he keep going? Show must go on? She stampeded him. Tell us more about that, sir.
She says to him approximately, "You are impossible."
Yeah. Yeah.
Creating too much.
Let's watch that.
And the Academy Award for Best Picture.
You're impossible.
Come on.
Come on.
La La Land.
Did her actions, I'm going to violate my rule. I'm going to ask a binary question. Okay, did her actions make it harder or easier for him to stop the Oscars? Harder. Yeah, harder. Exactly. Okay. What else? Let's keep going. Why doesn't he stop? He didn't want to look like an idiot. Okay, tell us, in what way would he look like an idiot?
He didn't want to be the one that made the mistake. He wanted her to.
So he passed it to her, but he still could have said, time out, hey, Jimmy, let's check this out before we go on. I don't want to make a mistake. There's a very small, there's a small probability about what being wrong. He could be wrong. So in other words, he stops the Oscars. He says, hey, let's check this out. A bunch of people huddle around, cut the commercial, drama.
And he's responsible for stopping.
And they look at it and says, it's fine, Warren, come on, right? And he wanted her, and the word you used is he didn't want to be wrong. Okay, every group uses that word. Now we just use the word wrong to describe the following sequence of events: pausing and double checking something. And we said, oh, well, we could be wrong. It's that fear of being wrong. Why? We are the ones who label it as wrong. In your company, if someone raises their hand and says, yeah, I'm not sure this is the right update, and it turns out it was the right update, if you even think or ask, or anyone in the company uses the word, oh, look, it turns out you were wrong, you got to kill that. Because it's that which impedes people from raising their hand. I think what's going on is this. He comes on stage. The probability the card is wrong is so remote to him, he doesn't even bother checking it for 5 full minutes. Then he opens the card. He does not see what he expects. Right here. He's confused because he says, why is Emma Stone's name on the card for Best Picture? He's got to make a decision. Stop the Oscars or go forward. He makes a decision, go forward with the show. And he launches into his script. As soon as he does that, look at it. The tension drains out of his face. And his brain says, it doesn't make any sense for me to be thinking the card is wrong and to be going on with the show. Therefore, the card must be right. The brain justifies the decision afterwards, and it says things like, oh, it's never been wrong, PwC checked it, all exactly the stuff you said it. We justify the decision afterwards. And my thing was, I knew this happened 100 times a day to all my sailors. I knew, because we know from Navy accidents, there's always someone who says, oh yeah, I thought, but I didn't say, or I said something, but no one really listened, blah, blah, blah. And then they shut back down. You have a narrow window, and the job is not to send everyone to assertiveness training and send them to speak up. Your job as a leader is to find out what it is that's preventing them from speaking up and reduce it. That's where you operate as a leader. Yes, sir?
This is live television,
Yes.
so he's not used to being in that room.
Yeah, so it's live television, he's not used to being. So what you're saying is normally he's making movies where we can do another take, it's live. So what's the impact of, it's live, big audience, millions of people on TV, what's the impact inside his head? Pressure, stress. Stress pushes you out of your prefrontal cortex, which is where the blue work happens, and it makes it harder to actually make these, there's no way he's having the kind of rational conversation in his head during that moment. Stress makes it harder to do blue work. So when you add stress for your team, you just made it harder for them to do higher level cognitive thinking. And I see this all the time. So we have a big project. We have till Tuesday. If you guys can't do it, we'll find someone who can. You just shot yourself in the foot because you just added stress to a team that you're just about to engage in a lot of thinking. Okay, so our job as leaders, if you're in red work, remember the factory workers, stress, no big deal. But if you're blue work, math team, or this, stress kills you.